All right, let's call this episode 17 of the Athletic Philosopher podcast. I am your host, former professor, current doctor, coach, fitness influencer guy, all the above, none of the above, sometimes everything in between as well. This is a really, really special episode. I am super pumped to invite my brother, my friend, my teammate, one of the guys who inspires me uh, more than any other when it just comes to living life the right way, living life on your own terms, but in a way that brings about the best of you so that you can serve other people. So it's like we don't want to live these lives to the best of our ability so we can be selfish and we can take and take and take everything, but we want to be able to pour back out. Like we want to develop ourselves so we can give from our hearts, and there are very few people I've met in the world who do that as well as this man right here. And this is actually really cool because I didn't invite Keith. This is Keith Marquis, everybody from Collins, Missouri. We call him the spirit of our team in tribal training because he's like the beating heart and soul. And he has given us one of our taglines, which is adapt and overcome. And this was just sort of inspired by your whole IronMan journey. And I'll just take 1 second to tell everyone just how awesome Keith is. Keith watched Ryan take the 7 or 8 guys across the finish line at IronMan Florida in 2022. And it was like a month later, you had messaged him saying, I want to do the same thing. But when you're talking about a triathlon, like what's the very first thing you got to do? You got to jump in the water and swim. This guy did not know how to swim. Not like, oh, I got some skills, but I could use a pointer or two. I was like, nah, I need you to teach me how to swim. And then in 11 months, the guy becomes an Ironman, like just an absolute champion and a legend. And it was amazing to travel down to Florida and watch Keith become a 2-time Ironman this past weekend. And he reached out and messaged me saying, hey, I want to come on your pod. I want to have a conversation about some of the things that we talk about on the team. In particular, Keith and I have done some work one-on-one over the past year, um, and to really give people on the outside looking in a really strong view into what it looks like, I guess, to be in a call, to be in a series of calls with somebody like me, and how we utilize sports, both like the action, but also like the metaphor and the language of sports to really work through some incredibly difficult moments in our lives and to come out on the other side much stronger. And this guy's one of my favorite people to talk to and to be around. And I can't wait to get into the arena alongside him next year, where we're going to be running the Prairie on Fire Backyard Ultra together.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm super pumped to welcome you to the podcast. Thank you so much for suggesting this and kind of like forcing me into it, kind of like bullying me into having you on, which is amazing.
Right.
Um, and so I guess we'll just start this with like the feelings that you had coming across the Iron Man line for the second time, what it meant for you in terms of, like the transitions and transformations and growth you've seen in yourself over the past year. And I guess since it's my podcast and I'll have to be a little bit selfish here, which is really out of my character, but what did it mean that I was standing at that finish line for you? And then we'll use that as a way to just have a nice open conversation. So welcome and love you, bro. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, just felt right to kind of reach out and I've seen all your pods, I think, but just really wanted to come on and share the experience of IronMan Florida, and kind of the process and our relationship, and what it's kind of meant for me. And to start, like the finish line this year was, it was so one of the things that made it so sweet is kind of the conversations, the intention and where it came from, that I wanted to do another Ironman. And one of the things that we identified early, throughout the last, year was, we had, we have to start like with my nephew passing away, right? That's when me and you really started talking a bunch. And I didn't have a race on the calendar. I wasn't thinking about training. I was just figuring out how to sort out this tragedy in all the people that I love the most. We talk every couple weeks, every two for three, and it had little to do with training and more to do with like just how are we, the lessons that we've taken from the last year of training for IronMan Florida 2023, right? That year I had and the pressure that put on me and what I had to rise up through and challenges overcome and to put it all together to cross the first Ironman finish line to lead 12 days and later to having just the worst day of our life. And so the first 6 months of the 7 months of 2024, training wasn't big in my priority list. Like I was still running some, I was getting touches there, lifting a little bit, very very little on the speak of, swim or bike. And just staying moving was kind of what we talked about. And it was like, just keep not posting zeros. We talked about that a lot, right? Like just kind of trying to keep the momentum moving forward. And was so blessed to have a basketball team here in my hometown of Wablo, and really get to see my nephew's classmates and his boys go on just a stellar finished 29-3. They balled all the way to the state championship game, and being able to talk with you about the meaning of that, right? Like me and my brother, we were on the front row of every game. We were the loudest, pouring into those kids, and it was easy to do, man. The love and that they gave back to us, and the energy, and just the competitors, dogs, absolute dogs that they were, really carried us through just a tough season. And being able to speak with you and helped me to identify kind of what it was, like I knew it felt good, right, to support these, to be able to pour out this love, this really tough place. And you helped me kind of understand the meaning and the healing that was going on in that, and it was hard to see that in the day to day, but that I really I felt like that was the truth when you told me that, and so that was another great thing that came from our conversations, bro. We're just kind of you identifying angles that I'm not, maybe I can't put words to, maybe I'm missing, but like I have these thoughts and actually, pointing me to, pointing out that like I'm filled up my best when I'm serving others, right? Like you give me something hard to do, but like it serves people I love. I'm like, all right, if that's meaningful, I'm in. And the first Ironman I did was meaningful, right, in my heart. Like I did it out of inspiration from watching my best friend fight for his life in cancer. Like that's where the 11 months of training come from. Like that thought in my head that was like, no, I love this fucking dude this much. Like I want to do something hard. Like what's something hard I could do, and come up with the Ironman. And so like the second Ironman, it was totally different, man. It come to a spot in my life, I got the opportunity, the basketball team that we supported over the season last year, I got the opportunity in May to be asked to be an assistant coach this year. And so that was something, that we also talked about, like, wow, what a, and just knowing that like that blessing and opportunity came from overcoming fear about the first Ironman, right? Like it was 11 months of fear-based training. Like, can I do this? Can I do this? And I knew I was putting in a ton of work, but it was also like I'm trying to learn these three things, and it's an Ironman. So, um, to come and to get the opportunity to coach, I said yes. And so the month of June this year, we had basketball activities all the month of June. My lowest training volume of the year was in June, and I was at the school. We was at the school 5 days a week. We had the kids at shootouts, team camps. And the last week of that month, we went to Branson to a team camp together. We all stayed in not really sick Airbnb. Kids loved it. And we played ball for like 4 days and all stayed on the same roof. And I'm coaching these kids, and I'm challenging these kids, right? I'm pushing these kids, and I'm coaching from a place of like, you guys want to win, like this is what it looks like. And trusting that I was telling them the truth, right, out of love, out of like, no, wanting to support them. And I left there, and it was like, something inside of me just kind of started itching, right? Like it was like, here I am telling these kids to be a dog. And I knew I hadn't been, I think I did like 5 or 6 runs in the month of June and like 3 lifts. So I had a lot of days I didn't do anything. And it was just kind of starting to weigh on me, It's like, man, I'm not a dog. That's what I started thinking in my head. It's like, I'm not a dog. Like I'm telling these kids to do something, and I'm not that guy. And so I reached out to you and Ryan on July 1st. We have conversations with both of and I had really, over the month of June, also my brother had started really cleaning up his diet and working out. Like the month of June, whenever I was at kind of my lowest as far as my fitness and my, like, that being a priority, like my brother's kind of taken off, right? And he's finding a place for all this pain he's carrying around, and grief, and finding something to put that into. And he starts with the goal. He's like 280, and he's like, I'm going to get 220. And, today he's like 240 pounds. He's lost 40 pounds in the last, since June 1st, right? Like this, I mean, you talk about inspiration, man. I mean, this guy inspires me daily about how strong he is, right? And this was taken off at that time, and watching him. And I did a local triathlon last year before I did Florida. And I said when I left there, I was like, oh, I'm going to try to come back here next year and try to win my age group and compete. And so it was like, I was kind of looking at that, and I was like, well, that's 2.5 months away. Like that gives me something to kind of aim for, And I was like, I'd kind of get trained up here in the next couple, 2.5 months and go run this sprint. And so kind of got into that, right? Like talked with you, talked with Ryan, got in the accountability thread. Like I got on the scale, like I had like 13 extra pounds from IronMan Florida. Like I'm packing around 13 pounds of rookie, I ain't hardly seen a bike. So yeah, kind of that first month too, that first couple weeks was super humbling, bro. Like I got back on the bike, and I'm super humbled, but also just like not sweating it either, right? Like I clocked in for them sessions, I gave it all I had. I wasn't cheating the process. Like I was dialed in, and it didn't take me about a month of training. I got to August 1st, and the way my body was feeling, and I was like, man, and knowing like basketball season was starting in November, 1st of November. So I kind of had a window, of like, is there a bigger race, and started talking with Steph, and, Ironman Florida got thrown around. It was like, I don't even know if I have time, I was like, I know I've got a month in, but, trying to think like, can I get it done in that amount of time? And, yeah, dude, it just kind of worked out, and I committed to Ironman Florida like September 1st. And we just threw in some volume for 6 weeks, started ramping up, and Ryan coached me up, had a great plan. My body continued to feel good. I fueled it well. I was preparing, and there was that moment I can remember, September 1st, dude. it was like I'd been training for this sprint, but now it's like, all right, 60 days, Ironman start line. It's just like threw gas all over the fire, right? That was inside me, kind of wanting to compete and wanting to push. And it's like, okay, you got Ironman 60 days, let's go. And just I can say for certain, dude, like one of the things that was so different about this build was the absence of fear and the absence of doubt. And it's just like I know I'm gonna be on that start line, so I'm gonna do everything I can in between now and then, and that will, that's what we're gonna show up with. And I was confident in that, right? Like I was confident in that, and you know the and I really think that's one of the things that was so much different in this build compared to last year, that like my body wasn't under the stress of fear, because like fear produces that stress in us, whether we subconsciously, like it may not be like overwhelming fear, like I'm still doing the shit that's going to get me to the finish line, right? But like there's also that doubt whenever it's really really big, if I'm doing enough. And I just didn't have that this year, man. And that was one of the things I just attributed to having been there, So, and then kind of we talked like a month after that, and you kind of, we had a conversation, and you was like, okay, what's your intention? Like, where are you wanting, is it just the same as last year, and or we got a different mindset? And that was a great question for me, and I already knew, like I told you then, like I'm looking forward to the hardest parts. Like I know what's coming, and I'm looking forward to the hardest parts, like the back half of the bike, miles, whatever, 85 to 112 when you're wanting off the bike, right? Not giving into that. We're still pushing. And then what I was looking forward to the most was the back half of the run. Like to have knowing, like last year, dude, that it won. Like I finished it, but I left there feeling like, man, I was proud, but also knowing, like looking back, like that run beat me. I didn't have the I didn't have the mental like fortitude or strength or wisdom yet to know, like, okay, this is where we push. Like this is where it says we want to slow down, but this is where we start, letting the course know, like it's different this time. And I really, man, I just can't even say, like, the last, really the whole run, but like the last 10 miles when it really got hard, like the things that I've been through this year and seen, like in my life, right? And the people around me that I've seen deal with pain, like the highest amount of pain. And to be able to be in that moment and recognize that, like, this is not pain, this is discomfort, right? Like having that mental place to be like, I've seen pain and I know what pain looks like. And this is not pain, this is just discomfort. And that's what I kept telling myself, man. I can remember thinking, like 2 or 3 different times on that run, like I had tears, like rolling down my face, thinking of like the situations and the things I'd seen my people walk through over the year, like who we are. And, it meant a lot. It meant a lot because, I wanted to empty it. Like that was my deal. Like I wanted to empty it, and being able to have the clear, like, goal, I guess it would be. It wasn't a time thing for me. It wasn't a time thing. I had no idea what time I was running the last 6 miles in. All I had my watch on my heart rate, and that was it. Like I'm just like, we don't need aid, just keep going. And I went by a guy. It was probably like mile 24, right? It was somewhere in there, and I'm in it, bro. Like I'm pushing everything I can out of myself. I'm grunting, I'm groaning, like I'm doing everything but slowing down. And my stride's still good, but man, it's just like my body's getting pounded, right? And I come up on this guy, and he kind of moves over and he kind of looks at me and he's like, "You can slow down, bro." And I'm like, I just want to empty it. And I just kept going. And that was what I said, I just want to empty it. And this finish line, like when I crossed it, I knew I had emptied it. And it was very, very satisfying, right? To know like all the people, my teammates, my family, my wife. Man, I thought about my wife on that run and like just what she is to our family and how strong she is for my kids. I thought about my boys and the dad I wanted to be, and I thought about my brother a lot. So made it really meaningful, dude, and that's the beauty of it. Like I'm not out there running because like I was raised like I didn't know anything about triathlons till I wanted to do an Ironman. And that was kind of my introduction. And like for me, it's just if I didn't compete like, I compete like this because it brings something out of me that I can give away, right? Like it brings and produces things inside of me that I can give to a group of young men wanting to learn basketball and learn how to compete. And that gives me the opportunity to serve people in my community and in my home, bro. Like I'm a better dad. I'm a more patient husband and dad and just overall person because of the things that I've learned through the process of swim, bike, and run that have absolutely nothing to do with swim, bike, and run, and you've been a big part of that, bro. Just helping me kind of recognize, the meaning in it, right? Because I mean, you can take people from the world that look at it and be like, yeah, well, you spent this, or this, right? They're going to start putting this type of value on what you're doing that they have absolutely no reason why you're doing it. They don't understand it, and that's fine, right? Like you do you, right? I've experienced a lot of things in my life, man. Had some really big highs, some really big lows, seen a lot, and I know that the the gift of like pushing our bodies uh, to limits. There's value in that, man. There's value in the process, the endurance, the pain, if suffering, if you want to call it that, that's fine. Whatever you want to call it, Um, but also, like it's so much for me. It's not just about feeling. It's about filling my heart up, for good, and also, just deep down, man, just competing. Like I like to do that, right? Like I knew coming in this year, like the I just knew from having done it once, the competitor in me was like, all right, here's where we're shaving time off. Like I knew like the number last year was not going to be the number this year. I talked to you. I think I said anything sub 14, I'd be pretty happy with. That's over an hour and 15 minutes, and I thought I could clean that up on the bike. I really did, and I ended up doing that. I rode the bike like hour 20 faster, and I don't think I pedaled that much faster. I was just always on the bike, right? I didn't get off the bike, so yeah, man, to come through. And I remember going and I hugged, first person I hugged was my wife, and shout out my wife, right? Like, my absolute rock in my life. Like nobody, uh, I mean, nobody supports me and loves me as well as my wife. And, she is the absolute best. And I would absolutely, if my wife was not on board with me running Ironmans, I would retire from running Ironmans. You know what I mean? Like, but she is so good that she sees, that like her sacrificing whenever, I have to train, and, she picks up the slack there. And so, but also recognizing what brings out inside of me, and giving me the opportunity to support me. And wouldn't mean nothing if she wasn't there, man. She's the first person I hugged and told her thank you so much, right? Like, thank you so much. And then getting to see Dreyer come over and he hugged me. He's like, dude, you went sub 13. I was like, what was it? What did I finish? And he's like, 12:55. I'm like, all right, let's go, And so yeah, just that feeling of seeing all my teammates out there too, man. I can't even tell you all week long, really. We all got into town Wednesday and Thursday, and then we hooked up, and just seeing them out on the course, man. Wow, right? Like, always giving good energy. And that was one of the things coming back, having done it once, man. I wanted to be that guy that whenever I seen a teammate, I wanted to give him good energy. I wanted to give them like, hey, we're in this thing, baby. Look at this nice day. We got to go do this. Let's go. And to keep that momentum flowing towards the finish line for all of us, and seeing my teammates out there in it, fighting, you know what I mean? Like, going through it, earning it every step, man, just fired me up to keep pushing. And, the sharing it with all the guys, and Ryan, man. And, my family was there. Like, I had a big crew with me, and all people, we all stayed under the same roof, and had a great time. And it just was so meaningful, bro. And I just know, like, if me and you wouldn't have been in constant communication over the year, and I don't know, maybe I don't run another Ironman. You were that instrumental. And as far as kind of leading me and giving me space too, right? Not pushing me. Like, you always told me, lead with your heart, be where your heart's at. And, my heart was with my family. My heart was with, the basketball team. And obviously in June, it was with it again in a different role as assistant coach. And it's just like, after that, it's like, where's your heart leading? Well, here we are. And that's what makes it meaning. That's what makes it meaningful, bro.
Yes, sir. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with everybody. One of the most valuable things that I think I do is give people space, create space for people to share what's on their hearts, to share what's on their minds, and to do it in a way that allows the messiness to come through. Like, and this is like every person, like, when we are confused, when we are grasping for answers, when we're uncertain about the future, right? There's a lot of confusion. There's just a lot of stuff on the inside. And the experience of just getting it out to somebody who's not going to judge, to someone who's not immediately going to try to fix the problem because there's some defect wrong with me, right? But someone who's going to listen earnestly with the heart, and then respond with empathy and understanding and a little bit of a mindset shift, so that we're not looking at whatever this situation is from this angle, but what about if we just viewed it from over here, right? And one of the very first things that we talked about, and one of the things that I am just such a solid believer in, and it's come through in so many of the words that you just mentioned, we do the training for competitions that we don't know are coming, right? So it's like, I train for the Ironman because I am expecting to have to swim 2.4 miles and bike 112 miles and then run 26.2. But there's always something afterwards, unforeseen, that the person who we needed to become through the training process was being like, that's where we were being aimed all along, right? So I talked about my story kind of like at Zion, and we were chopping it up a little bit before here. My big breakthrough at Zion wasn't crossing the 100-mile finish line and being like, I'm a huge conqueror. It's like looking out at my teammates at mile 40 and recognizing, holy moly, I'm a coach, after like 3 years of wondering what the heck I'm doing with my life, like leaving university for all of the reasons and then just sort of like, what am I doing? Like, what's my purpose? What's my path? And ultimately, that realization of like a newfound authority in who I am and what I'm doing was tested really hard right after Zion when my wife and I were trying to figure out, she's trying to figure out which promotion she wants. And that's going to take us outside of where we live. Like we have to move, like we're moving countries. And that's really scary and really terrifying. But the lessons that I learned through my own training and racing prepared me to handle that adversity. Like they didn't train, like they did train me to handle like a whatever, a 1,500-foot ascent or a descent on a cliff. Like that's fine. But what it really was aiming me toward was assuming the proper authority and responsibility to support somebody, my wife, in taking a big leap and going on a big adventure when I was unsure of it. Like I had to get over myself. I had to get over those fears. I had to find my own courage. And that's exactly what sort of transpired between you and I, right? The Ironman training, yes, it certainly trained you to get across the Ironman finish line the first time, but it became really apparent, you dealing with this unspeakable tragedy that befell your family, right? Losing a child, like unbelievably tragic and heartbreaking. It became pretty clear in our conversations, like this was the type of strength that you were cultivating all along, was this type of courage. And I'm sure like there are lots of moments that stick out to you, but there's one that sticks out to me. And it was funny because I was actually traveling back from Colorado after being with Brian out in January. I think you kind of know where this is going. I'm in the airport and I get a message on Telegram because this is something we had talked about. He said, "Here's the video. Here's the audio recording of the eulogy that I delivered at my nephew's funeral." And I'm like, "You want to talk about strength of character? You want to talk about resolve? You want to talk about adversity? You want to talk about learning the lessons that you needed to learn in order to show up?" It's like that's competition day. The Ironman is a joke compared to that, man. It's an absolute joke compared to the difficulty and the courage needed to stand up strong. You have to be strong for everybody else, strong for your brother, strong for all of the kids, right? That were little kids, like best friends, right?
Yeah.
That's what the training was always aiming you towards. You just couldn't have known it. None of us ever know what the real challenge is until it hits us. And I think a lot of the value, that, I was able to help you was space. The athletic training is never the thing, dude. It's always this character training.
Right.
It's always this character training when we're doing it correctly. And it's always tethered and identified to and through the heart, right? And once we made that explicit connection, you just embodied all of that. And you embodied it so much that when you just gave that, I don't even know how long you talked for, like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, like that's all that came pouring out. That's all that came pouring out. Because you've just internalized so much of it because it's the truth of who you are and how you were able to rise above tragedy or difficulty or adversity. Like ultimately, we want to utilize the training so that we become confident in who we are to face whatever adversity comes out of us, right? And sports become our language, right?
Yeah.
To do that. You didn't even tell the people your first athletic career. This guy was a bull rider. This guy's a rodeo man. This guy has no fear. He's willing to jump on the back of effectively a wild animal who could crush him with all the muscle, like a bull. Like it's crazy. And then he lives
there was definitely fear present. There was definitely.
I know there's fear,
but definitely, that's what. Yeah. No sport I've ever done has tested your courage more than getting on bucking bulls, like riding bulls.
And that's like 7 seconds, right? It's like
it's
7 seconds if you're lucky. 7 seconds if you're lucky, right?
I went from a sport you compete at for 8 seconds to one it's 12 hours. I've kind of covered a lot of the spectrum.
and you're now thrilled to come in under 13 hours in the Ironman. You're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm a fast Ironman. Let's go. It's 13 hours,
Yeah. Not really
right?
fast, but yeah, not fast, but super. Um, just kind of from like my number the first year too, throwing that one up, it was satisfying.
You're a rock star. You had an amazing race, dude. It was incredible. Anytime would you shave like over 2 hours off your time? Like it's just amazing.
20.
And as you mentioned earlier, it wasn't with like a whole bunch of training either. It was
No,
like
man. I
two
mean,
months 2 months before is when you decided to dial it up and really aim towards the Ironman. Maybe this is a good lesson about off seasons and resting and rehabbing up our bodies. If we want to be
yeah,
competing in these big time
yeah,
endurance events multiple times during the year, maybe we should take some time off and let the body heal so that we can hit it hard, right? So there
certainly.
there might have been some actual good wisdom there in terms of taking a little bit of time for yourself. Um, but
I
when we're thinking about like whether it's like jumping on a buck and bull or going for an Ironman, there's something that defines both of those challenges. There's an incredible amount of physical cost that comes
right,
with it. Like there's a tax. You got to pay a big time tax in both
right.
of those in both of those sports. And if your heart's not in it,
Yeah, it don't
what
work.
is going to animate you to take the risks? Like what's going to animate you to jump on the bull? What's
Yeah,
going to animate you to train whatever 6 to 10 hours a week and then go and do the dang thing, right? Which entails how much time off from work and travel with the like these are big time sacrifices. It's a lot of effort and energy that you got to put to it. And
yeah,
if your heart is not in it, well, what's going to start to happen, right?
yeah. I mean, for me, it would just be like I would not be appealing. You know what I mean? Like the way that I compete and what brings what really fires me up and competitions I seek out. Like I gotta be invested, with my heart. Like there's got to be some kind of pull to it. I find myself kind of like watching less and less professional sports. NBA basketball is unwatchable till the playoffs, right? Like and I love basketball. But even, it's just kind of, the thing that's going on with tribal training, man. Like somebody's always kind of racing. So somebody, we're all competing together, and the way that we're connected, we have the opportunity to see the struggles, breakthroughs, people rising up, and it's just been so, I if I wouldn't have found like tribal training, I just have a hard time believing I would still be involved in if I would have hired anybody but Ryan. Like if I would have had a different experience, but as it is now, it's like the guys and girls on this team like bring so much value to carried me through a really dark season in my life. Just a Telegram thread, and it wasn't it was just people doing what they do and
Yep.
seeing, putting in the work and the dedication and sharing the experience, right? Getting to share
Yep.
the journey. So
Yep.
whenever you're in an environment where you're consistently hearing that, I feel like when we engage in it, like it kind of feeds us, right? And
Correct.
and that's what's going on in tribal training, and
Yeah, bro.
it's really really cool. I mean, and shout out, to Ryan too, like for the plan. Like he laid out the plan, and I never really questioned it. And I mean, I showed up to IronMan Florida with plenty of gas in the tank to go out and run the race that I wanted to run physically. And I mean, Ryan's such a great coach and such a leader, and yeah, man, all
Yep.
my teammates too,
Yeah. I
dogs, just
remember I,
dogs.
I remember we had a couple conversations where it was like, like another team, they're looking at your training block and they're like, "Yo, Keith, you better start training, or you're not on the team anymore, bro." And it's like that thought was never crossed any of our minds because it's like Keith
No,
is the
no,
team. Because one of the things that, and now we'll give you a little bit of my advantage here, right, as the coach here. So, you send this like amazing eulogy, and I know that you're the guy that motivates everybody. Like you're the spirit. And that was really apparent in your build and your enthusiasm coming into the first Ironman in
Yeah.
2023. And it was like every time I saw you hype up one of the teammates or congratulate somebody on the thread, it started to make a lot of sense what you were doing cheering on the basketball team. And it's
Yeah.
like Keith is this guy who gets a tremendous amount of pride in himself by going through arduous physical challenge, but not just to show everybody like how tough he is, but as a way to like, which so many of us do, is to fill himself up. And you could see him starting to like pour back that energy into other people's athletic competitions. It's
Yeah.
like you were existing in such a world of pain and grief and hurt and loss that this was the one place where you could almost like bring that joy, bring that fire, bring that dog inside of you that
Yeah.
wants to encourage other people.
Yeah.
But it's like my heart's broken, and everybody who I want to encourage, their hearts are also broken. Right.
Yeah.
And we started talking about you throwing in all your support and your love and your energy and enthusiasm behind this basketball team. Heck, the head coach invited you to talk to those boys. There's that photo that you sent around of you in the stands, and you have your tribal shirt on. It's got adapt and overcome right on the back, and that's your saying. Like we stole that from you, uh, right? And you're now addressing these kids. And for me, it was pretty obvious how I should steer you and guide you. It had nothing to do with a training program aimed at a particular race in any particular discipline. It was don't, as you said before, it's like don't put up zeros. Like you can't stop moving and you can't stop being physical yourself because you need the outlet.
Yeah.
You need to take care of yourself. You also do enjoy that part of it. So I was like, whatever it is, just do something. Like whatever, 3 times a week, go for a bit of a run. It's like whatever it is, just make sure there's no zeros. So that when you eventually get the urge or the desire to go after something more structured, like you haven't lost a lot. And yeah,
Yeah.
you said you gained up a few pounds, and the first long bike you had back in July, like whooped you pretty good.
Yeah.
But let's be real, you picked it up pretty simple. Like there wasn't a lot of lag time because even though you weren't doing a lot of structured training, we were just trying to keep you in a headspace where you did some sort of training,
Yeah.
something, right? It's like
Yeah.
just keep going. So keep in a headspace of wanting to at least continue to train, and then guiding that enthusiastic energy from your heart into supporting other people in your community,
Yeah.
rising up to help them, utilizing sport as this powerful way that everybody could effectively like grieve together. Like that basketball team became the whole community's way to grieve the loss, like of a
Sure.
son who left too soon.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, the people in our community too, bro, they loved us so well. Like everybody, you know, and that's growing up, you know, having the roots that we have here in this small town community, the way that we live, man, the outpouring support from the community and love that was shown to our family, it was just, you know, I'm sure you get it other places, but they made us feel extremely grateful to everyone. And yeah, man, it was, you know, everybody grieved in our community in their own way, the loss of that kid. You know, some it was, you know, of course, you know, every you know, there's a circle and it goes out, and we were on the very inside of that, you know, and so everybody that they just, I can't say enough, right? Like I was and it makes me want to be the type of guy that can pour into, you know, my community and be a positive influence. And
Yep.
yeah, you know, whenever people, especially like in the competitive, you know, coaching or being around kids, to be able to feel, you know, like I like to be able to challenge them, you know, and to to find new levels of what their best is, to push them out of their comfort zone, and just kind of being able to develop the skills that have, I've done that with myself, and I try to do that with myself on the daily. So just the energy I try to live with, and just grateful for you to help, bring that out of me.
Appreciate you. And it's like that idea of flipping your mind from, well, I was training for the Ironman, wasn't I? To like, oh no, I'm really just training for life. Like
Yeah.
just that simple. It sounds like a simple fix, right? It sounds like a simple perspective change. But when you are in the depths of negative emotion, like,
One thing I want to, you know, another thing you asked about the Ironman, and I told you, and it rings true. Like it was some part of like a healing experience too,
mhm,
right? Like
yep,
being able uh, to do that and to put myself, in that position to face a long day and have a spot to dump a lot of what I considered to be pain out of my body and do it for
yep,
something good, right? Like everybody I love the most fueled me um, the last when it was the hardest. People I love the most in my life, like they were who I was thinking about. They were who I was, that was pushing me forward. What um, they bring to my life. So yeah, just super grateful. I mean, that's the word I always come back to. Super grateful.
yeah. The races are celebrations, and gratitude is the word that's on our lips and our hearts. So many people, they don't understand why we do the races that we do or why we subject ourselves to this type of training. They think it's some sort of a sick desire to feel pain or like a way to punish ourselves. But
Yeah.
it's more like what you expressed. It's more like a form of self-prayer, right? It's about being open and honest to the experience to teach us something that we desperately need to know about ourselves that we're too afraid to figure out in any other arena, or that any other arena can't actually provide the
Yeah,
knowledge, right?
for sure.
And what I think so privileged in being able to do is to spot the lessons for people, to
Yeah.
spot the real lessons that people are learning, and not just like the, hey man, don't get off your bike and you'll shave 45 minutes off your next one, which is a great lesson. It's a
Right.
great lesson.
Right.
And kudos to Ryan for teaching that one to everybody. But I'm able to just look a little bit deeper and to think, well, why are we doing the competitions? What's driving us as individuals to do it? What are we looking to learn about ourselves? And how does that knowledge make us better to go back and serve
Yeah.
the people? What's so great about all of your answers, everything you're talking about on this, is how the motivation was to do it for other people, to show up for them, and then to pour out whatever you got on that day back out towards them. That's what makes your wife a believer in the Ironmans,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because she sees that you become a better husband, a better dad, a better business owner, a better everybody. It's what
Right.
lights up your spirit, right?
Yeah.
And there are a few of us who this is our mode of being. This is our expression. This is our gift. Our gift is be able to feel pain that other people are terrified of and to move through it to learn something, right?
Yeah.
And when I recognize that in another person, I cannot allow them to give that gift away. There's
Yeah.
something that you bring, Keith, to the world that experiencing a physical pain or having the courage to look through the fear of physical pain, to go and search out whatever lesson that is, whether that's from 8 seconds on a bull or 14 plus hours on an Ironman,
Yeah.
that's your special gift to the world,
Thanks,
right?
bro.
It's
Thanks.
easy for you to go through these difficult trials so that you can do something difficult for somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I mean, um, you know, um, it wouldn't mean that. I mean, kind of just my whole why I do Ironmans. I've done two of them now, and um, what drew me to them in the first place was like, love for my friend. Like that is the bottom line. Like, and like the gift that decision has like produced in my life, like what it's produced, and like the relationship I still have with my best friend now. I mean, you got to meet Steve in Florida, and I mean, he's been at both my Ironman finish lines, right? Like, and to come, he makes the time to come down, and we get to spend a few days together. And my mom got to come this time, which she didn't get to come last year. So, I mean, to go out and run an Ironman in front of my mom at 43, and she never missed my competitions. She was at all of them she could make, and especially basketball, man. She helped me to so many basketball games, and it was it wouldn't matter, like the Ironmans. Like my kids got to go to get out of school for a week, and we got to make that memory, my family on the beach, and together and under one roof, and just filling me up, dude. Like my environment down there, as we, the couple days leading into the race, it just filled me. I'm looking at everything I love the most and thinking, I get the opportunity to go out there and just compete in front of them. And every time I seen them I see my family on the course, dude, and I get to give my little boy a hug when I get out of the swim. Cash, man, he was there. Yeah, well, got this video. I was driving by on the bike, man, and you can see Cash, man. He's just shaking. He's yelling for every dad, go, dad. I mean, that fills me up, and to do that in a way that my family looks forward to. It's not like the last 2 years I've trained for an Ironman. There's been a payoff for my family, and that's a trip to Florida to be together. And I don't know that I'm really interested in doing Ironmans if that's not it's gonna fit in my life, and definitely it's a family thing, and maybe one day it is like, hey, maybe you can just go do this when we're doing this. But man, for now, like, man, I love my boys coming. I mean, love being a dad and getting to share that with them. So good, dude.
Yeah. No, this is great. Everybody out there who's just listening, you should see the way this guy's face lights up when he's talking about these things. Like you should see my face hurts because I'm like trying to get the smile to go like even bigger and even bigger. And it's the same thing that's happening with Keith as he's talking about these things. And to me, this is why I do what I do. It is to help people correctly identify the meaning of the truth and the honesty of their experiences in sport. And sport is this powerful place where we gain a tremendous amount of self-knowledge and self-mastery, but we've got to be courageous enough to look at the honesty and the truth that comes out of our hearts. Like, if we're not doing any of this with our hearts, none of it matters. Like, zero. There's no meaning. There's no meaning. There's no purpose. There's no higher calling. There's no spiritual transcendence. There's no pouring out because you're just taking. All you're doing is taking. And you see this with people who utilize sports, especially adults, in the wrong way, where it's, I just want the medal to brag. I want to be able to hold this up above you. I want to smoke that time, right? So that I can feel good about myself status wise, or maybe I can get an endorsement or whatever external. None of that stuff produces the deep transformation. None of that stuff gives you the transferable lessons. None of that stuff gives you the character development and knowledge of self, which is why we want to do these things. That's what allows our families and the people who rely on us to push us out the door and say, go.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, you nailed it. Like, there's no, and this is just the way, that I am. Um, after our conversations and stuff, my way of thinking's changed a lot, around sport, and just kind of my understanding of, it's not, this is why you want to do the hard thing, right? Like this is what you're looking for. And then after, the more hard things that you do, you see what it produces and you're like, okay, yeah, that's it. Um,
Yeah.
this gives me the ability to pour out in a way that, otherwise I couldn't, until you experience it. It's, I think I think you question the genuineness of it, right? Like if you're kind of trying to pick it apart, like you can pick
Yep.
anything apart and be critical of anything. It's not real, like you said, but like, uh, I feel like those people probably are looking at life differently than me, and things that mean something to them don't really mean something to me. I know, like, I'm very, very grounded in who I am and what I believe and the man I want to be, and what moves the needle on that, what moves me closer to that, um, and the mindset that I have to have moving forward. Is I'm always growing and I'm always learning, and to be a student, and stay humble and know that, like, it's God. I want people to see God in me. Like, that is the main thing for me, and the things that I pray for in my life, and the power that He gives um, me to want to serve Him. Right? Like, it's not about Keith. It's about how many people can hear, from me about Jesus and see that in my life. Right? Be able to identify it in my life and open up conversations for Him to use me. And I'm so grateful for all the uh the direction that you gave me to, find my purpose. Right? Like, that's my life's purpose, is like, honor God. And so I feel like, some people have all different kinds of reasons they do everything, man. And the reasons that I have done, 2 Ironmans is, I'm good with it. Right? If I live to be an old man, when I look back and think, man, I don't really see me ever regretting that. Um, I'm grateful and see it as kind of also, like maybe a turning point in life. I don't know. I'm not.
Maybe.
I know my life's different than it was 2 years ago, and 2 years from now it'll be different than it is now. So, just
Yeah.
keep looking forward, right?
Yeah. That idea of just living through the heart, man. Like that's how we honor God, is by living through the heart, because that's where He resides in all of us. So it's like absolutely. Now, I could talk forever about that point, but I'm not going to, because we're already kind of running up against it here, and this has been a great conversation. So I'm going to close this off with a question
Yeah.
directed to you, more so directed to Coach Keith of the basketball team. A lot of our conversations are now talking about, how do we transfer our own lessons in the arena to become leaders for other people who are about to go into that same crucible. And just like, yeah, we want you to be better at triathlon, but our real aim is to make you like the best Keith that we can.
Yeah.
How is Coach Keith going to take the lessons from his 2 Ironman experiences to teach the kids, to teach your athletes more about life than just how to dribble, how to hit a 3-pointer, how to do the right pick and roll, all those fun things?
Yeah, it's been and that's a great question. And figuring it out, kind of my the month of June was kind of my my I was integrating into the team, kind of finding my role and finding my voice, and how do I um right, how do I encourage and coach the best way I can. And what I've come up with, and what I've learned, from this team, like, my message is, we're going to be the best basketball team we can if we're all the best teammates we can be. Right? Like, it's got to be about us, not me, and not about I, but about the team. And really seeing the lessons learned through what it looks like to be a good teammate inside of travel training, because there's so many just so solid people in here, uh helping each other, not just in swim, bike, and run, but just in life. and getting the boys to trying to transfer that energy that like play for one another, like play for one another and find, you got this big goal, chase it together, don't look back. Like it is all in every day. Like let's get what we can, let's be enthusiastic about it, right? Let's get out here let's fail, and let's fail fast. Let's fail with good attitudes, right? Just bringing that energy, like let's crank it up. Let's, don't be afraid to get coached. Like don't be afraid to get called out. Like we're all trying to get better, and that's going to be uncomfortable sometimes. It's not going to feel good every day. If it feels good every day, you're doing it wrong, right? But it's always coming from the heart, right? It's chasing this goal together and just trying to bring that energy, man, and trying to figure out how to best support the head coach and be, I've learned more about ball and different areas, how to teach it, and watching him over the last, over the summer. And then this last first week of practice, like, he knows so much more about basketball than me. And, just being able to watch him teach and coach has been super, super, in my development as a coach has just been like second to none, like the rapport that we have together and the energy that we both bring to practice every day has been great. And the boys have been, last week, it was the first week of full on practice, and we had some really good effort. And I'm just so pumped, dude, to be able to, this Ironman was a 4-month build, right? And this basketball season is it's pretty much 4 months. So it's like, okay, I'm back to July 1st, baby. We're at the beginning, right? Like I remember these days. I remember the struggle. I remember, and just knowing like to keep that positive mindset, that's something that I feel like I can consistently bring every day, is that energy like this. Hey man, I know that maybe it's not turned on right now, but we got to get it turned on. That's what we're searching for today. We got to give that effort that we're proud of at the end of the day, knowing, hey, we put the work in on November 11th. We look back at our year, and that was one of the things that, I think I shared down there in Florida. I was satisfied looking back a day from lining up the Ironman. Like I didn't waste a day. 4 months went by. I was sick once on the taper. But like my plan, I had to move it around a lot, but I was always getting it done, and when I hit start on the Garmin, like I knew the effort was intentional and it had focus, and I was trying to get better. And so to be able to, with a group of high school kids, I mean, you're dealing with 12, 13 different moving parts, and everybody's got something going on. So, to just be that consistent voice. And yeah, man, it's been great, dude. I know it's a long answer, so
no, it's beautiful. You're enthusiastic.
All right, love that final answer there from Keith about how he is taking his Ironman journey into his new role as assistant basketball coach at his local high school. Now, forgive me, I am always just going to be a humble prof, a flighty prof, a technically illiterate prof, and I actually forgot to plug in my laptop, and so the computer battery died, and it sort of cut us off abruptly there. But what I think is just super valuable with this entire conversation, and again, I want to thank Keith for coming on and for opening up and sharing about his experiences, training for the Ironmans, and really the value of extracting out these deeper lessons from our athletic experiences and how that transforms us not just into better athletes, but clearly into better people, better husbands, better fathers, better community leaders. And every time I hit record on one of these podcasts, that's what I want to express to everybody. Like, I want to express to you how limited we understand sport when we just use them for entertainment, or when we just use it for physical health, or when we just use it for all of these superficial or surface level things. But the depth and the true beauty of sport lies beyond, lies deeper, lies in the spirit, lies in becoming, lies in our potential. And when you are able to see the truth, right? The truth of what you're doing with your body and how it positively can impact the way you think and your self-belief. Well, that's when we can start to really utilize sport as a monstrous power in our lives. And I think the conversation that Keith and I just had is a really great example of what that kind of power can do in your life when you properly recognize and understand why training, why competition, why big physical challenges have these overwhelmingly positive orienting properties in your life. But only if you have the right intention, only if you have a conscious understanding of what you're doing, and only if you have people who are around you who are also trying to extract and get out that exact same value from athletics. And that's why we talked a lot about the team. That's why we talked a lot about the tribe. That's why we talked about community a lot. And so just to end off this podcast here, thank you again, Keith, for bullying me into having you on. This was amazing. I look forward to actually hosting a few more of my athletes and some of the people that I work with, so we can have these deep, open, vulnerable discussions so that everybody listening can get a sense of the true power and the awesome might that sports can have in orienting us towards our highest potential and our greatest purpose. And I'm just so honored to be able to help any individual achieve that through their own honest effort and being willing to open up their hearts. So thank you again, Keith. Thank you for everybody listening. Peace and love. We'll catch you in the next one.